Alright, let's see how this works today. Alrighty, looks like it's working better. I gotta change the title here. But alrighty, looks like it's working better. So let me see. Give me a couple of minutes here to get organized here. Okay, so it doesn't say The Outsiders. Alright. Okay, so it doesn't say The Outsiders. Alrighty. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes for some people to show up. And then I will get going with the live stream for The Wizard of Oz. As you can see, I tabbed the hell out of this book. In this month's book club, I didn't actually give review questions. I kind of forgot to give review questions. But I'm just going to go through the book and just talk about it and see if anybody else has any kind of opinions or thoughts about the book. They can bring it up. I believe the biggest problem I had was getting onto YouTube. And that's why I'm kind of actually using my phone here for my chat. So if you see me looking over to the side, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking over there for the chat. I actually don't even need this on, do I? So, when these live streams start, I don't know how anybody doesn't do it where it's all just kind of like, what am I doing? What am I doing? It seems so confusing to me to get used to all this, but I just wanted to say, I see someone. Or is that just me? So let's see if this works. Hello all. Okay. Oh boy. So, like I said, I'm still gonna wait a couple more minutes because I did say 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, so I'm gonna wait a few more minutes for the live stream to get going. Like I said, I am talking about The Wizard of Oz, the first book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and I really did enjoy this book. And this Barnes & Noble edition is really nice because it has some great illustrations here. If you can see them on here, they have some beautiful illustrations. I love the illustrations in this book. They are so nice. So it really helped get into this book with these great illustrations that you can see here. Let's see if I can show you a couple more before we actually start the live show for those who are actually watching this on tape delay here. You see that one? Look at that one. That's great. That is so great. I may read more of these. Look at that. Here's another one. You get to see. If anybody's actually watching this, let me know how I'm coming in, how's the sound, everything. Let's see here. Oh, here's another good one. I really like that one. Look at that. Look at these illustrations. I think I got this for like $10 too. For $10, this is amazing. This version. If you're a fan of The Wizard of Oz, I highly recommend the Barnes & Noble edition of these books because these illustrations just really add to the book. They really do. Here is the flying monkeys. Here is this. This one. And there's another one. Like I said, these are definitely beautiful illustrations. I just love these illustrations. Okay, I do see there are a couple of people out there in the chat. So, hello and welcome. And I'm going to share the link here. So this way more people can find out. Alrighty. Let's see here. Again, if I'm coming in okay, just let me know if I'm not coming in okay. I think I am now. I think as long as I'm not using my computer, I think I'll be fine. Here's the link to the live stream. Paste. Tweet. Alrighty. I believe we're ready to go. Again, let me pull up the chat. Alrighty. So, thanks. Jellicle. To let me know that the live stream is good. Okay, so here I am back on Zoom. Hopefully this will work. And I'm talking about The Wizard of Oz, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the first book in the Oz series. Excuse me, I'm kind of coming off a cold a little bit, so pardon. But let me get to this story here. Okay, so we start off in Wizard of Oz, obviously, with Dorothy in Kansas. Just like in the movie, you know, she starts off in Kansas, and it's kind of interesting the way she describes Kansas. She describes it as pretty much gray. Everything around Kansas is gray. All the people are gray. Everybody pretty much besides Dorothy and Toto are pretty depressing. The way she describes them. She describes how how Auntie M is kind of worn out. Let's see. And she just, like I said, she just describes everything as being very, very gray. Which actually, for when they did the Wizard of Oz movie, the black and white to color actually does work well in conveying that part of the book. I actually really realized after reading this first chapter that that whole starting the movie in black and white and going to color actually does kind of stay true to the book. Oh, wait, I got somebody new. Okay. Oh, got it.
Sorry.
All right. All right. You still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Good. And does everybody else in the chat? You guys hear Kaylin in the chat? Let me know.
How many people do you have on?
4 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, not a lot of people. So you're the only one actually who wanted to do the live stream. If you feel uncomfortable being the only person,
Oh,
I can understand.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, I was just talking about the first chapter, like you heard in the in Getting Time. Is there anything you want to add about that first chapter?
No, but yeah, I mean, yeah, there's just that emphasis on everything being gray, and so yeah, she lives in the flat land, and everything's kind of one note and everything. So I guess that builds to what she's about to experience and the contrast. So yeah, that's pretty much the first. It moves pretty fast. Like it's kind of like as far as comparing it to the movie. I mean, it goes right to the twister comes pretty fast. So
yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So like I said, then we get into Oz, and now we start seeing a lot more of the differences from the actual movie to the book, especially with the Good Witch, who is a short little old lady, pretty much in the actual book, and
right.
not the character that you actually see in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the shoes are silver instead of ruby slippers. And I have a feeling that they used ruby slippers in the movie because it probably was more colorful and they wanted to use that color. And I think that's probably why they used ruby slippers instead of silver slippers.
Probably. I think you're right about that. A little bit more flashy.
Yeah, a little bit more flashy. Plus, of course, it's not that magic where the slippers just magically go on her. In this story, Dorothy actually puts the slippers on, and the slippers can actually come off. So that's a little bit different as well. And one thing I mentioned in my Goodreads was that there was an interesting line about magic that they mentioned here, that the only reason why there's no magic in Kansas and I guess on Earth is because it's a civilized country. And if you're a civilized country, you don't have magic, and magic is only in uncivilized countries.
Yes, I remember reading about that too. That was interesting.
Yeah, so that is an interesting line. I was always wondering like what that line meant. Like what he was trying to get at in that. Was it even who knows, was it somewhat racist about like saying like they have like witch doctors in African countries and stuff like that, and that was like how they said magic, or people who believed in magic weren't like the civilized and were savages who believed in magic, like Indians and stuff like that. Believed in more magic. I wonder if it was more something of that nature, or what he was actually getting at with that line. So that was just kind of an interesting line I wanted to definitely bring up because I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I remember thinking that too. Like it was just kind of so they would have magic if they, weren't to this point where they were, and quote unquote civilized, and then you think, well, what does civilized mean then? If it means like you have no magic, then yeah, it's kind of okay. But
Right, and then we start finding out more about the different characters, which of course in the movie they just pretty much mention the Munchkins. You don't find out about the Quadlings or the Winkies, I think, or any of the other characters in the Land of Oz, which I think definitely go on when you read the other books where they get into these different realms and different lands.
Yeah, you got the flying monkeys, but and the munchkins and the flying monkeys, but then yeah, you don't have the were the quadlings were those the ones with the bear bodies and the tiger heads? Or was that a different, because they had a few different things.
No, no, the quadlings were the characters in the South, so they were the ones that were enslaved. Not
Okay.
enslaved. No, those were the ones. No, they
Twinkies.
were the characters in the South for the good witch of the South. That when she actually went down there, she had to go past that China land and everything else, and the
Yeah.
quadlings were part of that land, the land of the
Okay.
South.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to remember all the names, keep all the names straight, but then like later on, I mean this is jumping ahead, but later on they have the ones that's they had the heads that would come up, like the necks would lengthen,
Yeah.
their heads like would fly out at you.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Like
They attacked you with their big head.
yeah,
Yeah.
those weren't in the movie either, so
No, no. A lot of stuff wasn't in the movie here, which is funny because this is actually a really short book, but there's actually
yeah.
a lot of stuff that wasn't in the movie.
But a lot of, yeah, for good reasons though. I mean, for a children's family movie, I mean this book is not uh it's not, I mean, I don't know if I'd even call it a children's book, and for some of the stuff that's in here. You
Well, for the
know?
time it was definitely for the time it was because at that time they didn't really have too many kind of limits on what children's fiction
Yeah.
was. And you look back at the old fairy tales and stuff, they were pretty gruesome. So
Yeah, like Grimm's and everything. Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That's true.
So at the time, they didn't really have much filters when it came to violence or things like that. But yeah, this does get dark pretty much in a bunch of spaces here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much I guess all I'm going to talk about with the second chapter. Um, the third chapter is where we meet the Scarecrow. Like I said, this kind of moves pretty quickly,
Hmm.
and I think in the actual book and the movie, it's pretty close. I feel like this is probably one of
Yeah.
the parts where they got pretty close exactly to kind of how the movie was, how the Scarecrow met Dorothy. He did the little wink, and he did the little talk, and it's pretty much kind of exactly how um,
Yeah.
you met Dorothy. One thing we didn't mention is the colors. Is that each land of Oz has a different color, which I know Emerald City obviously was green, but you have blue for the
For
land
the
that she landed
Munchkins.
in, and then you had white for the witch's color, and then I
Mhm.
forgot what the other colors were, but there were always every land had its own color as well. So it
Mhm.
definitely had some nice world building here in this actually, because he had a lot of stuff going on as far as how he built his world in this short little book. I thought was actually really well done.
Yeah.
Let's see what else I had here.
Yeah, I think as far as the Scarecrow doesn't have as much of a backstory as like the Tin Man coming up. I think the Tin Man has more of a history,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
in
The
the
Tin Man
Scarecrow.
definitely has some history, but it was kind of nice hearing how they drew the one eye on the Scarecrow, and then he could see, and then then he could talk as soon as they drew the mouth.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting,
Yeah.
and also something I haven't gotten to yet here, but they mention here how the Scarecrow, even though he doesn't have any brains, he also doesn't have a heart, and the Tin Man doesn't have any brains. So it is
Yep.
kind of interesting how each character supposedly doesn't have anything, but one wants a heart and one wants brains. And I know there's something else later on when they meet the Tin Man, where they talk about how um, they have an argument about which is better.
Hmm.
Should I have brains or should I have a heart? Which is better? And of course, it says, well, if you have a heart, then you're a fool, which obviously a fool in love. They use a lot of like cliches in this book. Uh, but that was an interesting kind of discussion to think about. What's more important to have, intelligence or emotion? Really, pretty much that's what the argument is about. So that's kind of a deep,
Right.
philosophical thought for a children's book.
Interesting, especially as the Tin Man's backstory with having a heart and brains before, and now being able to choose. Like he's had both, or he's experienced both, and courage, I guess you could say too, being like a a human trait. And he picks, the heart because of the love story. Like he was going to marry the girl. And so he always remembered that. And so he would choose the heart over the brain for that reason. So, yeah. It's That's interesting, but yeah, it's just funny how much how they assume they don't have any of these parts, but yet the scarecrow is usually the one coming up with the ideas and solutions for things, and then the Tin Man is like the tender one who's like, oh, feeling bad for this person or that person, and um he's obvious, and he cries. He's the one who cries all the time, and so it's like obviously they have traits already that would imply that they have.
Oh yeah, and they do play around all through the different chapters here about how you see the Scarecrow use his intelligence. You
Mhm.
see the Tin Man supposedly use his heart by crying at everybody. Um,
Right.
but yeah, there was also another line I actually forgot to mention about was when they were talking about how everything was gray in Kansas and how everything's so bright in Oz. Obviously, the Scarecrow says, "Well, why would you want to go back to this great place?" And then, of course, the famous line, "Well, there's no place like home," she
Yeah.
says. And then the Scarecrow says something really interesting. He goes, "Oh well, I'm glad that you have brains because I don't have brains. If nobody had brains like me, they probably all would live in beautiful places and all leave Kansas," which I
Yeah.
thought was kind of interesting. And I think that's kind of related to again the time that this was written because there was a whole like industrial revolution thing going on. I think a lot of people were leaving um, the farms, going to the cities. So
Yeah.
I think he was trying to say that well, everybody would go to the city and say, well, this is such a beautiful, wonderful place. Why would you go live in these dirty farms? And it's like, oh, well, this is home. And
Yeah.
so I think that was kind of a knock at that. I think that's exactly where that line was coming from.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but yeah, that's definitely context in the context of when it was written. With the industrial, they got like trains now and new technologies, and yeah, people are starting to. It's getting more industrial, like you said, and then so people are not all farmers anymore. So it's like even back then, like a farm life is almost like. Um, Traditional or archaic at that point, which is funny, being that this book was still like over 100 years old, and it still would have been like by then, yeah, things were changing already.
Yeah, yeah. So let's actually get into the Tin Man's backstory since you mentioned it. It actually is again pretty dark. I actually remember when I first read this story. That was the first thing that actually definitely stood out to me was that
Yeah.
Tin Man's backstory because it is so much darker than we would see in the actual movie. So for those who don't know, what happened was the Tin Man basically was cursed by this woman who didn't want her daughter to go off and marry him. So what she did was she cursed him. So when he went to use his axe, he started by getting his arm chopped off. Then he got his legs chopped off. Then he got his head chopped off. And then
Yeah.
finally he got his torso. I don't know how he actually went out there with no arms, no legs, and I guess in a little cart or something.
Yeah, every time he lost a limb, he had a
Oh,
tinsmith
that's true, yeah.
created him a new appendage, or a leg or an arm, and he kept oh, his axe was cursed. Was that what it
Yeah, the
was?
axe was
The
cursed,
mother
I believe.
the mother cursed his axe so that every time he went to chop wood, he would slip and cut something off. So he kept having himself repaired until he became, all made of tin, and instead of like dying like a person would, yeah, he just became this tin man. So yeah, I was like, I can't believe that I'm reading this in this book, because I had read this like years and years ago, but I didn't remember any of this stuff. So it was just kind of kind of a shock.
Yeah, it definitely was a shock. And again, it was something that I thought was a little uh, kind of weird in the book. Is it makes a point to say that Tin Man stayed with his parents. First, he stayed, I guess, with his what was his mother and father, and then I forgot which parent died. One of them died, and then he stayed with the other parent until they died. And then when both parents died, he said, "Okay, I'm going to go out and meet a woman to marry her." And what's funny is there's no problem with him staying with these parents until they passed away, but somehow when we get to the woman who is supposedly taking care of this older woman. Now we don't say that she's her parent or anything, but is taking care of this older woman. The older woman winds up being selfish because she doesn't want this woman to leave and leave
Yeah.
her alone. Meanwhile, the Tin Man didn't leave his family alone before he decided to find somebody. So I thought that was a little bit of a weird uh, dichotomy in the story there. I don't know what that was saying about it, but that was just something I picked up on, and it seemed a little weird to me when I
Yeah.
first read it.
Um, I'm not sure. I think it might have to do with the gender roles. Usually like the women would go off and get married while the men would be like the providers
The
and take care.
caretaker, I guess,
Yeah,
more.
caretaker. So maybe that included like parents. So while he was, caring for his parents, she was ready to leave and be a wife and whatever. So maybe I don't know, maybe that had something probably to do with it.
Yeah, probably. So now we'll get to the Cowardly Lion. Um, and again, it kind of matched a little bit, pretty much what the movie adaptation was there, as far as the lion going after Toto. What I thought was a really good line, or pretty much basically what they were saying in this story was the reason why the Cowardly Lion went after Toto was because he was smaller and he was easier to attack. And Dorothy called him a coward for going after this tiny little dog that in no way
Yeah,
could defend himself. And I read this, and I'm thinking, well, you just said that every bully is actually a coward by actually saying that, because that's what a bully would do. It would go after somebody that's weaker and smaller than them. So I thought that was actually a nice little morality play that they kind of threw in
yeah,
there, which I actually never picked up on when I first read the book until oh yeah, that actually,
yeah.
which I thought was kind of nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's like kind of taking advantage of the smaller, ones that can't fight back. And it's like, well, that's an easy thing to do. But, if you had gone up against someone like the same size or like bigger than you, that would have been like, the less cowardly. I mean, not that it's brave to go and pick fights with people or whatever, but yeah, I mean, he goes after this tiny little dog, and so she recognizes that in him, that it's like that's not bravery. It's just an easy target. So it's like imagine what he would do with someone like your own size.
All right, so after we have all three guys, and now they actually start going to Oz, and here again is where it definitely changes, and you see a lot of these are the actual creatures that you were talking about, the Kaladas with the bear
Oh,
bodies and the tiger
yeah.
heads, but you don't really
I
see much of them. They're pretty
No,
much in this chapter, and that's it.
I think that yeah, I think that's all. They don't come back if I remember. I'm thinking I'm looking at the pictures of them, and I'm thinking, are these one of the characters that get like their heads chopped off? Because like that seems to be like half the people they encounter, or half
Yeah,
the
especially when the witch comes after
characters
them. Yeah, later on.
they
Yeah, they,
encounter,
they,
and
they, they
they
cut off a
fight.
lot of people's heads.
Yeah, they kill like the wolves and anything.
Now, this is the one where you get to see all of the different the scarecrow and the lion and the Tin Man use all the things that they say they don't have.
Right, right.
The lion is brave by jumping over this uh, gorge or ditch or something. I forget what it is that he jumps
Yeah.
over. So he uses
Hmm.
his courage to jump over this ditch, and then You see the Scarecrow when the other things are coming after them. He tells the Tin Man to chop the what do you call it, the log. That they find a log to go over another ditch. Chop the log so these creatures don't come after them. So basically, to me, this whole other chapter, when they were the journey to Oz, was all about showing that they have all of the things they're already missing.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what this.
They already have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Scarecrow is going. I know when they kind of were running out of food, and Scarecrow goes and finds a tree with nuts in it for food for Dorothy. Um,
Yeah,
so that's
food
like one where
is
he
talked
takes
about a
like
lot.
initiative. He knows how to find food, so it's obviously like, yeah, he knows what to do. So
Yeah, and like I said, the Tin Man is crying every 2 minutes in this in this story.
right, yes,
That's how I guess mom thinks you can show heart. That you just okay if you cry all the time, you have a heart.
yeah,
Um, so then we actually start getting to the famous poppy field scene,
yep,
which in the book it's kind of funny because the witch in the book is barely in the book. She's
right,
in
right,
like
barely at
what, like
all.
one chapter, I think, maybe 2 chapters tops. You
Pretty
know,
much,
pretty
yeah,
much. Dorothy
yeah,
meets her for the one time and destroys her, and that's it. Where
yep,
here,
and
you have the poppy fields, you have all the stuff, but nobody, we haven't even met the witch yet, the Wicked Witch.
right. And the
Um,
witch kind of really has nothing to do with the poppy field. I think it's just that poppies naturally, in the book, have the scent, and they cause, you
but they
to
do
sleep.
say that's in the witch's domain. That's what I do
Oh,
remember. They did say that was in her domain, but somehow she didn't know about the fact that
okay.
they were in there.
Right. Yeah. I'm just thinking of the movie, how she's looking into her crystal ball or whatever, and she's like, "Poppies, poppies," and so she's making she's like causing it to happen, so to keep them, uh, away or whatever, but or at least control them. But yeah, that's not in here.
No, no, not at all. In fact, this is actually a part of like another kind of thing that happens in this chapter is every character winds up getting in trouble and kind of has to get saved. Scarecrow gets trapped in the middle of the river. The Cowardly Lion gets trapped in the middle of the poppy fields, and it's basically okay. Let's try to figure out a way to save this one. And it's always like other animals, I guess, come to the rescue. You had the stork comes to the rescue to save the
The scarecrow.
scarecrow, and
Yeah.
then these little mice, which I love the queen of the mice, and you see her come back again. I love the whole field mice thing, and then
Yeah.
basically pulling the lion in this big chariot
Right.
type of thing.
Right.
You know
Right.
that imagery just seems so cool to me.
Yeah, I think that would have been hard to do in the movie, to have like a bunch of mice, or at least puppet mice or something for that time. The special effects maybe would have been harder to
Yeah, they would
do.
have to be like cartoon drawn mice or something.
Yeah, like, stop motion, like
Yeah. They could definitely
animation.
do it now if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so then we get to Oz.
But
Pretty much.
does the mouse, does she give something to Dorothy, or I feel like she gives her something or tells her something to protect her, or maybe that's later on, she tells her something that helps her.
Well, I know they meet the queen again. I forgot when, but I
Yeah,
know
she
they.
comes back later, so
Yes.
maybe that's later on. So I think it's probably later on
Yeah,
that
the
they.
only thing that Dorothy had was that special kiss, I guess, on the forehead or something that the witch gave
Yeah.
her that supposedly
Yep.
protected her, and that's actually what stops her from being harmed. Unlike in the movie where the witch can't
Yeah.
harm her because of the slippers. In the book, it's because
Right.
she gets this kiss from the
Yep.
good witch of the north.
Yep. That's right.
So again, we get to the Guardians of the gate to Oz already. We got to Oz already. That was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they get invited into somebody's house again, I believe, right? They actually got invited to neighbors' houses a couple of times in this story. A couple of friendly neighbors helped them on their travels, saying, "Oh, come in and eat my food."
Yep. Yep.
That
So
happened a couple of times. And then
yeah, I'm just trying to remember who that was. If there were people in the Emerald City that they run into, or they get tired from walking, and then yeah, they take them up for the night before they get to the
the,
um
the city itself. This is actually
yeah.
Oz, I guess, not the actual city. And then they get into the city at the very end, and they put the glasses on, the emerald glasses.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, the green glasses, which everybody, realizes after you put the green glasses on it, everything is green, and that's why Emerald City actually isn't emerald. It's actually
Right.
just looking it through green colored glasses.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they go to meet.
Funny. It's just funny how everyone's got the glasses on. No one ever. It's like they never took them off, and
Well, there's some kind of key that you're supposedly not able to take them off. There's like some kind of
right.
locking mechanism.
Yeah, probably. So it's like, yeah, they have to wear them. I guess even when they go to sleep and things
Yeah,
like
it's some glass vice or something that they have to put them in.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty dark, I guess, right there.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like it's like prisoners. Like I mean, think of like it's like a GPS monitor or something. Only not, and they don't realize that they can't take these things off, and it's kind of like they're being prisoners though, or they're prisoners, but they don't realize it, and but they all love the Oz, the wizard. So that's kind of strange, I guess, but I mean, with the glasses, everything's so beautiful, and they see, it's like the rose colored glasses, the emerald colored glasses, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they see anything um, negative or whatever, but I don't know. It seems like there would be a dark side to that
Yeah.
eventually.
And now they each get to meet the wizard in this one. They don't all meet him together. They each get to meet him separately.
Yep.
And he looks different to each person. And basically, he tells each person the same exact thing, that he wants them to kill the witch. That's pretty much, you can kill the witch, you can kill the witch, and all of you just help Dorothy kill the witch, and then I'll give you what you need.
Yeah.
And they go off to go after the witch.
Yep. Pretty much. I mean, it's pretty clear what he wants them to do, so they have another journey. Yeah, it's funny when they get to the Wizard of Oz, it feels like, oh, they made it there, the book's almost over, but really that's really just like the midway point. And I remember thinking that always when I would see the movie, like when they reached the castle, in the Emerald City, it always felt like close to the end of the movie, because but that's really just only a part, of the journey. Like there's so much more to come from there. Just as something I noticed, but
And then now, of course, when they start going towards the Wicked Witch of the West, it's the West, right? I believe it's the West, right?
Yeah, the East. She died when they
Okay.
dropped. The house fell on the East.
So when they go after the Wicked Witch of the West to her land, um, and
Yep.
that's when we start seeing the real ultra violence. I likened it to like a Marvel movie at the end scene where they're just killing all of these creatures that are just
Yeah.
coming after you. That's pretty much what happens here. She
Yeah.
sends she sends wolves, I believe. Yeah, she sends wolves out to them. 40. It's always 40. I guess that's a biblical reference there. She sends 40 wolves
Oh
out.
yeah.
Yeah, 40 wolves out after them, and the Tin Man chops the heads off of all
Of
40
course.
wolves.
Yes. Yes.
Then we
And
send 40
is it
crows.
bees? Oh, crows. Okay, I'm thinking it was bees for
The
some
bees are
reason,
for the
but
Tin
I don't
Man.
know. Okay.
Yeah, we send 40 crows out, and the scarecrow grabs the crows and literally strangles crows.
Yeah.
So every crow, 40 different crows, he grabs and strangles to death. And when they send out the bees, what they do is they hide Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion under the Scarecrow's, what do they call it? Under the straw. And then when the bees come and attack, the Tin Man just stands there, and the bees all just like slam into the tin and
Yeah.
wind up dying.
He
Um,
broke off their sting. He says, yeah, they broke off all of their stingers without hurting the woodmen at all. So yeah, it's like each of them. Well, the Tin Man had really was a killing machine there because he took care of the wolves and he
yeah,
took
that's
care
true.
of the bees too. I mean, where was the
Yeah,
lion?
the lion didn't do anything. It was the lion.
The lion's
No,
just
the
sitting.
lion scared them away. It scared the
Okay.
what were they? The other, I guess the Winkies. Yeah, the lion scared the Winkies away.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, he's using his scary his courage, I guess, or
Yeah,
uh
to scare the Winkies away. So then they call in the winged monkeys. So here we get the winged monkeys coming in,
okay.
and we
Yeah.
find out about the golden cap, which again wasn't in the movie, which is a really cool thing. I wish that was in the movie. That would have been a kind of cool idea to have that cap. I don't think that could have been hard to do. But what you
Yeah.
find out is that the winged monkeys were kind of compelled to work for the witch because of a spell that this cap has. And
Yep.
there's a long story about that, which is again also kind of dark a little bit about how basically I guess the king of the winged monkeys threw this prince or something in the river, and then the woman he was gonna marry got upset, something like that.
He was mad because she was mad at him because he ruined like his clothes or something for the
Yeah,
wedding. He got
yeah, he
his
ruined his
clothes wet.
clothes. So
That really,
so I ruined your clothes, so now you are going to be indebted and in slavery for the rest of your natural
yeah,
life.
it was pretty. I thought it was a pretty overreaction to that, but whatever. Yeah, so they made it so that the winged monkeys were cursed, and that every um person that met them or whatever had that cap had control over them, that
For three
they
times, so like the three
yeah
wishes.
they would grant like three wishes for that person. So the monkeys were pretty much in kind of enslaved or whatever to whoever had the golden cap. So it kind of that I kind of found funny, because I mean, this is this wicked witch, and she's supposed to be all powerful, but really, I mean, she's using this cap for three different times to have other things go after these
Right.
people, or the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and Dorothy, and um instead of like having her own powers to like go
Yeah.
after them. It's like
Yeah, I
she's
wonder how that cap could work. If could she put it on like one of her servants and make them like make like three dopey wishes, and then she could
Mhm.
they get it back again and have wishes again, or is it just like a one time use?
Right.
And of course, then she actually winds up dying in this chapter as well. You just meet her, and it's only because Dorothy is taking a bath in this one. It's not because of the fire on the scarecrow, uh,
Right.
and because she's stealing her shoe, and she goes and gets upset and spills the water on her, and then of course she dies because she has water spilled on her, and the whole unmelting thing happens. So boom, the witch is dead in chapter 7. No, chapter 12 of this book. So it's like halfway done with the book already, and
Yep.
already the witch is dead, and only halfway in the book. So that was kind of surprising to me. I
Yeah,
actually,
that was surprising. I was like, "What are those? What else are they going to do after this?" Because you're so like used to that movie. Everyone's seen it, I'm sure, multiple times, and I grew up watching it. So you always think like that's the end. They killed the witch, so now they just have to go back to Oz, and everyone knows what happens from there. But then I was like, I wonder what's going to happen from here, because we still got like close to half of the book left, and and I shouldn't compare it so much to the movie, because obviously they're two different things, but um
yeah, but people are obviously going to remember the movie more often than they're going to remember
yeah,
the book.
oh yeah.
Even me, I forgot. Like I said, I've read this and I've listened to the audio, and I've
Mhm.
even forgot a bunch of stuff in this because I keep thinking of the movie when I first
Yeah.
think of this. So of course, then they have to rescue the cowardly lion, and now you see all the Winkies who are all happy because Dorothy saves them, just like she saved the other Munchkins from the other Wicked Witch. So they actually rebuild all the Tin Man and the Scarecrow because they got destroyed by the flying monkeys before.
Yeah.
And Dorothy takes the cap. So we use that cap later on because Dorothy takes the
Not she
cap.
didn't really yeah, she didn't know what it did she take it? She just thought it was nice, right? She didn't like I don't think she knew what powers that it had. Did she?
I don't. Yeah, I'm
I
not sure. I
think
don't remember. I don't. Yeah, I think you're right. I think she just thought it was nice when she took the cap.
yeah. So yeah, they fix up their friends. Like the Tin Man had gotten thrown into like some rock pit or a quarry
Oh,
or
that's where
something.
the Queen of the Mice comes back in. The Queen of the Mice actually tells her about the cap because she has the cap and says, "Oh, well, you got the
Oh,
golden cap. You could, you could get back because she didn't know how to get back from where they
that's
were."
yeah, that's right. That's where I was thinking. I was like, was this? I think the Queen of the Mice had something more to do with this, and she was going to tell Dorothy something. So that's where she comes in.
Yeah. So they
So
take the monkeys, take them back to Oz right away, so we don't have the whole story about getting to Oz anymore. They go right back to Oz. Um, and then you find out that Oz, that the Great Oz is the humbug. Uh, that he doesn't actually have any kind of powers. It's basically again kind of like the movie where you find out that he's just a man behind the curtain and he doesn't really have any kind of powers. You find out about the glasses, um,
yeah,
but he does figure out a way to actually give these creatures gives a lion, the scarecrow, and the Tin Man, his heart, the courage, and the brains. I thought it was actually kind of interesting how they did it. I actually liked how they did it in the book way better than what they did in the movie. Where you have a diploma, so this is now
yeah,
why. But
yeah.
but it was really cool. Like with the Scarecrow, what they do is they put like bran for brains, and they put like needles and pins because they say,
Uh-huh.
well, see now the needle's sticking out, so now you're a really sharp fellow. And I thought that
Yeah.
was such a funny line. I actually
Yeah, it was.
thought
And then
that.
whenever he'd be thinking like his head would get like extra big and stuff. So he's got yeah, he's using these brains that he's got. Even though like the Oz is like knowing the whole time that he's not giving them real, brains or real heart. He's just kind of sort
Making
of
him
ignoring
realize.
them, but making them they had to believe it themselves. So he's just kind of, making up these things, but it works because they think he's this, wizard, even though they know that he's kind of a fraud too. But they still that was funny. Like they still trusted him, after all that. Like that, he made you go and kill the witch, and then he was not going to give you anything for it, but. He's like, okay, I promise I will, though. And they're like, okay, well, we believe you. It's just kind of like funny because he made them wait. Remember
Yeah,
he made them wait a bunch of days and he wasn't going to do anything. And then finally he agreed to, and they have all this confidence in him now. So it was kind of like, what did he prove? But what has he proven to you? Like that. He tried to make himself out to be like all these different characters and be all magical, and then he turns out he's not, and but yet you're still believing in him to do all this stuff. I just thought that was a little curious, I guess.
yeah. And then of course the lion. I like how he gave the lion courage because he basically made him drink something. So he
Yeah.
basically gave him liquid courage. I wonder how much proof that was. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Whiskey.
Yeah. Well, it was supposedly green, but then again, everything is green in Oz if you're wearing the glasses. So
It's like St. Patrick's Day beer or
yeah,
something. But yeah, that was you're right though. That was definitely more interesting um, than the in the movie. How he just kind of gives them the three things. Like I think the heart is like that necklace,
right.
and but yeah, here he actually carves the Tin Man's chest, or he carves a hole in his chest and puts in like a heart and everything, and
Yeah.
with the other things a bit more detailed and
Right. And then as far as like him doing how to help Dorothy. That's actually pretty much just like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the
Oh yeah.
balloon, and the balloon gets away, and Toto
Yep.
runs away, and it's pretty much
Yeah.
exactly like the movie. And here, like
Yep.
you said, if this was the movie, the Good Witch comes, boom, it's over. But no, we have
Mm-hmm.
a whole other,
Yeah. Then they
bunch of
had to travel.
chapters.
Yep. I was like, oh, there's more. Like at that point, because it was like, it's just, yeah. I mean, just constantly comparing, and that's maybe my own, problem is just comparing it to what I already know of the story because it's so ingrained, But now it's not over yet. They still have to go and do, one last thing to get like their Dorothy's,
Right, they have to find the Good Witch of the South, which we never see in the movies, or in the
right.
movie.
Well, in the movie, the North or Glinda was the same in the beginning as the end, or she shows up in the beginning, and
In
then
the end, it's the same. It's the same
we
witch.
only,
Yeah.
yeah, we only meet the one good witch in the um but yeah, I think Glinda's what in the south, and then the one in the beginning was the north, the one who kissed her.
Right.
So yeah, and then the movie has like Glinda's in the beginning and the end. So just one witch in the movie. But yeah, they're supposed to go now. They're supposed to go and find her.
Yeah,
And
and they have to start heading to the south. So when they start heading to the south, they meet the trees, which of course that is kind of in the story, not the same as the movie, but you do have a
right,
little bit. It's a lot smaller in the book, where it's basically just these trees kind of stop them, and then they just kind of run through. And I think there's a Tin Woman, like, yeah, he cuts up the tree again, so
of
he starts
course,
attacking
yes.
them.
He cuts off the limbs, I think,
Yeah,
of the tree after they get in the way. So it's like there's no stopping him. Whenever something is blocking their way, that's what the Tin Man does.
yeah.
With that, he uses that axe. So
And then they have to go to the little China country after this, where you have the big wall of China, and you got the small little China people who get all cracked,
yeah, yes,
which
that
is
part.
really cool. I did really like those little China men, those little China, those
Little
little Chinese, those little
Chinaman.
Chinese. I'm really good. Those little those little China
I
inspired
thought that
people.
would have been, with the pictures in the book. I don't know what illustrations you have. If they're probably the original ones. I'm guessing. Um, in my book, it's W. Denslow. I think these were the original drawings from the original book, but they have like the China people, and they have like the clowns and stuff.
I saw the
And
clown. Yeah,
yeah,
I got a picture
I
of the
was thinking
clown.
this would be really creepy. I think if and there's the clown that keeps standing on his head, and
And they're
he's
all
got
cracked and
cracks.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got cracks all over him. I thought that if this was in the movie, this would have scared me because I'm already afraid of clowns. It's kind of a cliche. I think like a lot of people are, but yeah, I thought that was kind of creepy. And you can't chase after anyone because they'll just fall over and break and get repaired again. But it's like
Yeah,
I
nobody
don't know.
plays tag in that world.
Yeah.
And now the lion actually defends against this horrible creature. I guess they talk about the spider. I guess that's terrorizing all of the different animals
Yes.
in the. Now I thought this is kind of
That's
weird
the
because
forest, I think, when they get into the forest. Um, I don't think that wasn't in the China country.
no, that was after China.
Yeah, they get across, they climb over the wall and get out of there, and then they're in a forest, I think.
Yes.
And yeah, and they talk about this big creature who's been killing everything.
Yeah, and the
So
creature supposedly, I guess, killed the lion that they had. I
yeah,
believe.
yep,
So that is the line. So the line says, "Well, I'll go and kill it." And I thought was really weird is that Dorothy and nobody else like said, "Hey, this thing killed another lion. What are you doing?"
yeah.
Like there was nobody tried to stop him.
Yep.
Nobody
Yeah.
was like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, you can kill it."
They said, well, he wasn't as big as you, but still, I mean, there's like an elephant. I mean, elephants, I guess, aren't aggressive, but big. I mean, but there's a lion and there's tigers and stuff. But yeah, having killed other lions already, he's just like, no problem, I can go do it. It's like
Yeah,
there's no fear at all anymore after he's gotten
his courage.
his quote unquote, yeah, his courage now.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, where
so
was Tin Man's heart on that one? Saying, "Oh no, oh cry
yeah,
me
yeah, yeah.
dog."
Our lion. So that's funny. Yeah. So yeah, he goes and finds it asleep, and then
Just
he
kills
just
it with one
landed on.
blow.
Well, yeah, he kind of took him while he was sleeping, which is kind of a cheap shot, but
Hmm.
he did the job, so he took care of that, and then of course becomes they want them as or they want him as their king for killing this monster quite easily, but still.
All right, so then we see the quadlings.
Yeah, these are the things with the necks. They have the long necks that jump out, which I thought was kind of creepy as well.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the big headbutt that they did.
Yes, hammerheads. They were calling them hammerheads and
Yeah.
quadlings. So quadling hammerheads. So in the meantime, yeah, they're using. Dorothy's got the golden cap, so they decide to use it.
For the winged monkeys to get
Yeah,
around what do you call it? I
to
mean,
get.
these are the hammer. Yeah, these are not the actual the quadlings. I think are actually the regular residents, and these hammerheads are something
Oh,
different
okay. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, yeah.
because they
That's
cross over into the country of the
yep, they want
quadlings.
to get into the country, and then the hammerheads were these awful things with the shootout heads. So
And then you get to the witch, and she does the basically the 3 times. Take me home, and it goes right to the 3 steps and the 3 steps. Actually, yeah, it's different. She has to take 3 steps. It's not just click her heels together 3 times. She takes three
okay,
magic steps that catapult her like Flash or like the Hulk taking huge jumps or something.
right.
3 huge steps that make her fly across the desert around Oz,
Yep.
fly right back home in these three
So
huge steps.
yeah, so dramatically that the shoes that the silver shoes come off somewhere in between, and while she's traveling and get lost somewhere in the desert because of the just the force of her transport, I guess. It knocks her shoes off. But there's also this is the country that's red. Everything's red. Where the good witches, like all the quadlings, people are dressed in looks like red and white, and so that's the color there. But
Yeah.
yeah, she tells her, all you have to do is yeah.
Yeah, I like I said, I really did enjoy reading this again and really getting into it and deep diving into this story because there is a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah,
Uh,
there is for sure.
Especially like you said, for such an older book, it does have a lot of interesting story things to think about too. You know.
Mm-hmm. Lots more details and different characters and things. I thought Dorothy was a little bit I don't know, they develop her a little bit more, I think, in the movie, or they make her a little bit more. I don't know. There's so many personalities in this story, like with different characters and stuff, and they almost kind of overshadow her, I think, a little
Right.
bit. She's
Yeah.
like
So
she's
what did you think about like what was better in the movie than the book besides Dorothy?
um hmm. Uh, I don't know. Just the movie is just so it's so childlike. I mean, it's so innocent, and then some
Right.
of the things in the book, yeah, were a little bit. but I understand that as kind of how the stories were written back then, and like they're kind of like Grimm's fairy tales and things like that. Just some of the dark elements and like the backstories. I didn't feel like I needed to know them. I
Right.
guess because it took some of the mystery away, maybe just for like the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and things like that. But I mean, these weren't major things, but um,
Mm.
I also like the story the story with how the witch has more in is more involved. The Wicked Witch of the West is
Yeah.
more involved in the movie version, and how she ties in with the beginning, and how Dorothy, she's a neighbor, of them, and how that, so there's that story too. And it's just interesting how all the people that she knows in Kansas turn out to be, like in the movie, when she wakes up when she's back in Kansas, and like her uncle, or the two or three different friends are, you can tell that they're the same actors that played the Tin
Yeah.
Man and the Scarecrow, and then this old lady was the Wicked Witch. You could tell, like Miss Gulch, I think it was her name, Miss Gulch or something. Yeah, she was the Wicked Witch and everything. And then she meets the carnival guy, or the traveling carnival guy, and
Right.
he was the Wizard of Oz. So that was interesting how they tied it all back to what she already knew. And then it made you wonder, kind of, was she dreaming all this, and all of these characters became, the characters in Oz and everything. And that really wasn't in the book. And so that, like,
Right. The book
it
actually
felt,
made it real.
yeah, the book was a lot more real. And of course, because there's multiple books in the series, so there's going to be a continuing adventure. But I kind of liked how it was in the movie, how it was kind of implied as a dream, or possibly a dream. It's kind of hard to say, but yeah, I kind of like those connections. But it was interesting too, just to make the comparisons and the contrast too, and just not really knowing what was going to happen next in the book. So I like that as well. I like that element to it. So
Okay. Well, we've been talking for like an hour, I believe. So we did.
okay.
Yeah, we did. I think a pretty full detail of this
Yeah.
book.
Yeah,
I
I apologize for the technical issues in the beginning, though.
that's okay. I'll try to edit some of it out. I'll
Yeah,
look into
yeah,
things. Uh,
probably should.
um, but if there's anything you want to say to beyond, you'll mention your channel, or mention what kind of books you read or anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I have a channel. I'm Kaylin Reads. So there's Paul Reads, and then there's Kaylin Reads, and I've been on. I My channel has been around for about 2 years, but I've only just in the last, like, maybe 5 or 6 months or so, been more active on it. I like to do book hauls. I like a variety of books. I like children's books. I like true crime. I like horror. So. Um, I'm interested in that. Obviously, The Wizard of Oz, I like that we did a classic, and so that really interested me. And I'd been meaning to reread this book. So, yeah, I mean, just a variety of things. I do some book reviews. I'm active on Goodreads, so I'm usually reviewing the books that I read on there. So, this is the first time I've done like a live stream with someone, so that was interesting and fun. So thank you for having me.
No, no problem. This is actually the first live stream I've done on my channel, actually, as
Oh,
far as
okay.
with another person. So this is
Oh,
my first too, to be honest with you.
okay.
So,
Great. It was,
but
yeah, good experience.
alrighty. Well, just to let everybody know, please check out Kaylin Reeves' channel, and
Thank
thank
you.
yeah, and thanks again to everybody for watching, and I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye.